okay, what's the difference between microdosing like mushrooms and then like how do you microdose plant medicine? How does that correlate or how does that work?
Most of the medicines we work with and journey with, we can microdose. So it's wonderful for people who feel called to the benefits of the medicine, but they want to start out slowly. They don't want to bite off more than they can chew. Psilocybin is still illegal in most of the U.S.
Oh, it is?
Today. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And it's so, if once you're in this world, it becomes so absurd that it would be still illegal. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I hear with mushroom microdosing is people are fearful they're going to be out of it. They're going to be weird. I'm going to be trippy. And they're like, I can't be weird. I can't be weird. Like I have too much going on. Yeah. And most of them are associated with
Spiritual Fitness Podcast. We're back again with another episode, and I have the privilege to have Kayse Gehret. She's the founder of Microdosing for Healing, for all earth medicine. She's a spiritual guide, a leader, and she holds a beautiful space for people who want to transform their mind, their body, and their soul. Kayse, welcome to Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I have so many questions, and I think the world has many questions of curiosity, contemplation. Maybe there's some fear or apprehensive around plant medicine, psychedelics, microdosing, mushrooms. But before we get into the questions and get deep into like how we can move into that space, especially get into your space and your global community, what was your turning point or what was your initiation to do microdosing or get into plants in general to help your life to be able to hold space for so many others?
Like a lot of people, I had a lot of hesitation. So while I had been in the healing arts for many, many years, I became a Reiki. I was attuned in Reiki at 19. So I've been at this for a very long time. But I had a grand mal seizure disorder growing up. So I was very hesitant to do anything. So I was very hesitant to do any drug growing up, let alone psychedelics, to destabilize my already unstable mind. But years later, after many, many years of studying different healing arts modalities, I came across the concept of microdosing. And that I could kind of get my head around because I wasn't going to go anywhere. It was really subtle. It was subperceptual. And I really didn't know what to expect. I thought it would be kind of just a spiritual opening, another herbal remedy that I was taking. And among other things, my seizures stopped. I've never had one since. I've never had even an aura since. So in addition to healing my seizures, I also had a whole host of benefits come in that just kind of layered on top of all of the benefits I had already received from all of the other healing modalities I did. It just kind of like amped everything up even more. My intuition blew open. My connection to my guide has become extremely profound and a huge part of my life through mushroom practice. And this, I think, is why I have so many beginners that are very hesitant to work with psychedelics for a whole host of reasons. Yeah. And I can really, really relate to that. And I love working with beginners for that reason.
So I say that to say sometimes we go through such a dark phase or dark night of the soul to get into the light that the creator, the universe, our guides, our ancestors wants us to tap into because of fear, lack of information, and not feeling safe and not knowing. We judge the thing that can help us the most, but we'll go party, we'll go drink, we'll go smoke, we'll stay in toxic relationships. So in your world, what calls most people to the medicine? Because I have a lot of women clients who are mothers and wives, and they deal with a lot, right? And it's a lot to be a mom, to be a wife, to hold space for your kids, and not only that, but for yourself. But outside of that, what calls people to the medicine outside of what you know, what you had to deal with? What is the commonality in your world?
I love the way you frame it in that you're called to the medicine.
Yeah, I was called.
Because that's exactly how it happens. And so it's for all different reasons, but that is the thing I think everybody shares, is that their soul knows when it's time.
Always.
And the medicine and spirit knows when it's time in your soul development for you to take this next step and you're ready to it. So a lot of times it comes up, there's a friction sometimes because people have this amazing healing and experience with the medicine and they're like, they want their husband to do it. They want their sister to do it. And it's really an individual soul to soul thing. And so you will want the benefit of, your family and loved ones to experience the medicine, but it's really important in their own process that they come to it in their own time and when they're called to it. At this point, it's really extraordinary. Like when I started in 2020, it was mostly mental health reasons. It was the pandemic. People were really laying on the wine too hard at home, doing the things. And I think people were ready to do something new and different, but really struggling with mental health reasons and physical health challenges. So I get a lot of people with nervous system dysregulation, concussions, TBI, headaches, migraines, cluster headaches, lots of physical health reasons. Fast forward to today, we still get a lot of those things, but we also get, I want to tap into my true north. I don't want to just manage symptoms anymore. I really want to thrive in my life going forward. I want to be more connected to spirit, to my guides, to my angels, to lost loved ones. I want to be more connected to the earth now. So it's really, really beautiful and how diverse it is. And the best news is you kind of get all of it, no matter what you come for.
Yeah.
You end up getting all of the above.
So now they're just looking at physical 3D material things. And if it's not logic, there's no certainty for them. And for me, I'm more of a person, I want to move people more into their spiritual essence, their certainty beyond logic, so they can say, look, this is what I'm called to do. This is what I feel. I don't have logic, but deep in my soul, I know I need to do this.
That's the beauty of their intelligence, is they carry so many codes of wisdom, have lived through many eras, and they are part of us. We are part of them. And so it's really a reconnection. One of the things that's common, people start microdosing, and after a few weeks, a lot of people say, this is completely new in one way, but it's also a deep remembering.
Yeah.
In another way. They're kind of like, I've done this before.
Mm-hmm. I want to pivot and ask a more off the subject, maybe controversial for some people, but I want to know your take because I feel like your soul knows, or you at least would give honest answer. So the first question is, because when I think about plant medicine, I think about plant-based, right? So one is, do you believe plant-based is the way for most people to go? And you think that's ethical or the right thing for most people? That's one. And two, this is a more deeper question. Do you believe in free will or our lives are predestined?
Ooh, that's a juicy one. So I have seen when people start working with mushrooms, the way mushrooms in particular work, it's really, they go into the density of the body. They clear grief, they clear trauma, they clear fear, a lot of these heavier vibrations. And so a lot of people just very naturally want lighter foods.
Okay.
They want to eat salads, they want to eat fruits and vegetables, and that's just part of the clearing process, I think.
Yeah.
But once we kind of get to our set point, I think we go through different phases of evolution, even within one lifetime, and we need different things at different times. So I'm in one of those phases now. Like I've gone many years where I've been vegan or vegetarian, but then I go through phases where I do eat a lot of fish and my body needs red meat.
Yeah.
And spirit guides me to do that. And so one of the things my own guide has emphasized to me again and again, because I need reminders sometimes, I like pizza. And she has really reminded me constantly, the key is to work with spirit, to work with medicine, is to eat a living foods diet. A diet that's close to the earth, that has a living vibration to it, be it a vegetable, be it a plant, be it an animal, but something that comes from nature, comes from the earth, and has not been too far removed from the earth's vibration. That's the way to attune your vessel most fully.
And what foods would that consist of?
Fruits and vegetables, plants, but also I think meats in moderation too. Yeah.
If more people can get into the alignment of their soul's assignment, there won't be people with extremes. Is even this or that or that or this. It's what your soul wants. Because your soul might say, well, I'm going to start microdosing for healing for a global community, and I'm going to be on CNN talking about it. And you're like, how? I don't know. My spirit guides are telling me this. But people want logic. They want facts. They want to see it for them to believe it, but spirit doesn't work like that. You got to feel it. It's the unseen. But yeah, that was a great. Okay, I get what they're saying about plant-based. I'm not against it, but I also understand everybody's different. There's not one size fits all. I want to get into like the plant medicine, right? St. Pedro to be exact, Wachuma, because in my journey, I've noticed that ayahuasca is like a big thing and you hear it all the time. And I'm like, okay. But yet I wasn't called to do ayahuasca. I was called to do St. Pedro, the grandfather. So I'm like, what's that about? So to people listening, can you break down what that plant or that cactus is? How does it benefit us? And how did it shape your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, I began with mushrooms for many years, and mushrooms changed my life, microdosing. And so I didn't think it was possible to have a similarly profound experience until this year. For the first time, I worked with Wachuma.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful. It's been just as profound in a very different way. And I also think it was time for me. You know, it took this long until this year. This was the moment for me to work with this medicine because it's a very mature medicine.
Mhm.
It's a very old medicine,
Mm.
wise medicine. And so I'm very grateful. I kind of laid the foundation working with psilocybin mushrooms first,
Mhm.
because I think it's this medicine is so expansive and subtle at the same time that I think I appreciate the nuance to a greater extent.
Yeah.
So Wachuma is from South America, Peru. It is an ancient medicine, and its name changed as usual.
Mhm.
So with white Westerners, right, who came in and changed the name to San Pedro. So Wachuma, San Pedro cactus are the same, and the active ingredient is mescaline. So
Mm.
it's a very different experience than, say, a mushroom medicine. It's very slow moving. The word I kept coming when I first connected with it, and this was microdosing it, was just smooth. It's so smooth, and I could feel like the wrinkles
Yeah.
of frequency and energy just being smoothed out and lengthened. So it's extraordinarily soothing. It felt protective. It felt expansive. Like it stretches out time. It helps you feel less pressured. I think if you're a person that constantly feels like you need to do more and more and more, I found myself being just as productive and fully present with things, but not feeling that sense of urgency and pressure.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, what's the difference between microdosing like mushrooms and then like how do you microdose plant medicine? How does that correlate or how does that work?
There's many medicines, most of the medicines we work with and journey with, we can microdose as well.
Okay.
So it's wonderful for people who feel called to the benefits of the medicine, but they want to start out slowly. They don't want to bite off more than they can chew. They don't want to kind of open Pandora's box and get kind of the big truth all at once that you can receive in a journey. It's also easier to integrate into your daily life when you're kind of taking bite-sized pieces of things. And so mushrooms, people tend to microdose mushrooms between 50 milligrams up to about 300 milligrams of fruiting bodies is kind of a microdose of mushrooms. And then each different medicine will be slightly different depending on which medicine it is.
Now, when it comes to like, because I always get it mixed up. I had mushrooms before, like an actual mushroom, like the organic one, and then I think there's a like a gummy. Like, what's the difference with that? Is that like placebo, the gummy version, or the chewy version versus the actual mushroom? What's the differences? How do you know?
Thankfully, there's a lot more options now. So
Yeah.
when I first started my platform, we taught people how to grow their own.
Oh.
So we had cultivation kits and people would grow at home. It was during the pandemic, so lots of people had lots of time on their hands to learn new hobbies. And so people would grow their own mushrooms at home and use those as their medicines. Over time, though, fast forward, there's so many different delivery methods of psilocybin mushrooms. So you can still get mushrooms, dried mushrooms, but you can also get capsules, tinctures,
Yeah.
tablets, chocolates. They're all beautiful and they're all very effective. You just want to make sure you know your source. I always tell people, know your farmer, trust your guide. And if you can't find medicine, your guide should know a reputable source that works with intention, integrity, because these are living sentient beings you're working with, and it matters greatly how the medicines are held.
Yeah.
So
And so why is like the mushrooms or is it psilocybin? How do you say it?
psilocybin.
Psilocybin. Why is that legalized or beneficial in the States, but then we can have like the Ayas and the St. Pedro's? Like I'm trying to figure out why don't we have that? Like everyone says it's business, but I don't know how much we could talk about it. But you know what I mean? Or you can just give me a general.
Psilocybin is still illegal in most of the US
Oh, it is.
today.
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't know that.
Yes. And it's so if once you're in this world, it becomes so absurd that it would be still illegal, right? You're
Yeah.
in it, it's really hard to lose sight. And so that's one of the things we talk about and remind people is like remember, depending on where you are in the US, it's legal or not legal. So right now there's only two states, two statewide that Colorado and Oregon it's legal and decriminalized. Hopefully soon to be New Mexico. Alaska's also getting close. And then it's organic and mycelial, as mushrooms are. All of these towns and cities across the country have chosen to decriminalize within counties and cities. So you could be in a state where it's illegal, but you could live in a town that is decriminalized. So
Okay, I
it's
see.
changing very quickly. Different medicines, some are legal, some are illegal. Some cactus medicines are illegal when they're in medicine form, but they're legal when they're in plant form. So I just always counsel people, you want to do this work from a place of safety
Yeah.
and feel like your nervous system is safe and, accounting where you live. However, like mushrooms completely changed my life. Absolutely. And so to me, it's everything I have been given and gifted with mushrooms supersede,
Yeah.
where I live. So I think us having these conversations and sharing and talking, and the more people, instead of waiting for the government at this point, I think it's really going to be people who lead this movement and change. Unfortunately, psilocybin and a lot of the other plant medicines got lumped into the drug war for political purposes back in the 60s. So it was under Nixon, who was trying to drive a wedge. It was Black Americans and white hippie America who were utilizing cannabis and mushrooms and LSD, and also psychedelics free one's mind. You learn very quickly to think outside the box and to for yourself. And it was very, it's you see what is artificial,
Yeah.
you see what is contrived in society, and you see what is oppressive. And it really helps you see around. And so when you're trying to get people to conform and be fearful, how does one do that?
Yeah.
Is makes it popular. So unfortunately that it was swept into and made Schedule 1 drugs, even though psilocybin does not qualify in any way for any of the Schedule 1 requirements. It's non-addictive, it's non-habit forming, it's one of the safest drugs there is. However, it's harder to undo these laws than it was to put them into place in the first place.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's so interesting. Like we legalize alcohol, which has so many different attachments, entities, spirits that's on it. And I think you said in one of your podcast episodes that, plant medicine and psychedelics help release those attachments and spiritual entities that are with you or in you or deep down in your trauma or ancestry lineage so you can connect to your spirit that wants to talk through you to you for your highest good. And that's why it's important if you can't get to that part of yourself to microdose, to come to a space in a container like yourself. Now, can you take us on a practical journey for someone out there listening right now who's going to see this that wants to do mushrooms so bad or plant medicine? What is the spiritual practical approach? Because, people say set your intentions. You talked about feeling safe in your nervous system. If someone gave me a mushroom today that I trust, but I've never done it, how should I approach that space? Like to drop in or get the best out of that moment for my highest good?
Great question. So, someone's just starting out. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I hear with mushroom microdosing is people are fearful they're going to be out of it. They're going to be weird. I'm going to be trippy. And they're like, I can't be weird. I can't be weird. Like, I have too much going on. And most of them are associated with an alcohol experience where you get buzzed, you get intoxicated, and you're less functional. You're more outside of yourself. You're foggy. You're not clear. You shouldn't be making decisions. And people are very surprised when they start microdosing with mushrooms, is mushrooms are the opposite. When you're microdosing, they bring you more into yourself, home to yourself. You're clearer, you're more articulate, you're more empowered. You're in a place where you can make good decisions. You're better at everything. And so you want to take your time and work with someone who can help you determine your dose, because dose is going to be different for each person, depending on a whole host of things. Develop a protocol to how many days a week are you going to microdose. That's going to be different for each person. Your guide and your community will help you do that. And ultimately, your connection with the medicine will be very intuitive.
Yeah.
Like you said, you'll just be called back to your next journey. You'll be called back to your next microdosing protocol. So it's not something you're going to be doing chronically over time. Typically, people do it until they get to a new set point, and then they take a break, and then they'll come back to it when they're working on something else.
I want to talk briefly about mental health, depression, and suicidal ideation. In your line of work, do you work close with mental health agencies or mental health advocacy or practices to bring people, if it's liable for them to come into your space to kind of microdose or even have an opportunity to greet that? Because I think the world today, people are more anxious, more overwhelmed, more depressed, or you choosing depression. I want to say, actively depressed, or some people really have a chemical imbalance. How do you feel like what you do and what you can offer can help that? Or have you talked to people in that space that's curious about it?
This year, 2025 in particular, we're in a 9-year. It's a collective 9-year.
There it is.
And it's wild out there. And so I tell people when they come to practice, if you're not feeling some degree of depression and grief and anxiety, you're not human. It's very normal to be feeling kind of the weight of society, the weight of the world right now, especially if you are part of a lineage that has experienced a lot of trauma. It's really lit up this year. And so, yes. I mean, everybody comes to some extent. I think one of the keys is sitting with people and knowing, like, where are you? Like, how far imbalanced are you, to help determine what is the best medicine for them to start with.
Yeah.
Right? Because psilocybin is a very amplifying medicine. So it's great if you're ready for that and you're resourced for that. But if you are already kind of pinned at your peak emotionality, we might say start you with a wachuma, or we might start you with an Amanita muscaria, which is the cute red mushroom with little white dots, the Alice in Wonderland mushroom, which is really deeply resetting to your nervous system, but doesn't kind of create that amplification effect that psilocybin does. So we encourage meeting people where you're at, working with a guide who can kind of help you, coach and guide you on which medicine is right for you. When people come in with like clinical diagnoses of severe clinical depression, suicidal ideation, I have a very collaborative practice. So I have lots of clinicians that I team up with and are part of our community. So sometimes with someone with severe mental health considerations, they're best in the hands of a one-to-one experience. And we have a lot of psychotherapists as part of our community who bring that background and skill set so that they can bring a therapeutic lens to someone who's working with medicines in that framing.
In your line of work, if someone's come to, do you send people through like some type of assessment to kind of like know, like, okay, this is a pattern, these are consistent, so you're going to do this. And from your history and your experience, what has been people's outcome? Like, do they come back to get more because they're still wounded in it, or they still relapsing? Or is it something that actually clears it? Because when I didn't do that, but when I did Wachuma, I can feel the clearance of my heart. Like I had this heart wall. Like I feel like I was blocked. And I don't know, I feel like the trauma that was in my soul like left my body and it like cleared me and put me on a new timeline. How does that work in your practice for people who come to you direct that once you give them something, do they like go off to the races and they're just a different person, a paradigm shift? What's the outcomes?
Mm, beautiful question.
Yeah.
So it's different for every soul because I feel like every soul is in its own process and arc of development. So we have very, very old souls
Yeah.
on the planet, and then we have a lot of young souls running around. And so there's a lot of factors that come into play, but I've certainly seen people who begin microdosing and from day one, it's like you said, they're off to the races and just it's experience after experience and opening and just beautiful experiences. And sometimes in 6 weeks, they're in a completely different place. Other people, it takes longer. They're just kind of connecting with the medicine. They're feeling safe in their bodies again, safe in the world again, and it takes some time to really open. I find that one of the nice things about working with earth medicines is earth medicines really track with your soul.
Mhm.
They never push you too far, too fast. You can talk with them and communicate with them, and they really move along with your pacing. I had a very different experience in that I'm kind of in the slow camp. I'm a very
Yeah.
cautious soul,
Yeah.
and so I microdosed for a very long time before I did move into higher dose work. And when I did, it was the right time for me. I beautifully opened, but I think I would have been too cautious and too fearful to move into those deeper, higher liminal places
Yeah.
that you can get to. So sitting with someone when someone comes in, I'm really sitting with their soul
Mhm.
and assessing how much are they ready for and what is their spirit ready for, and then kind of choosing a pathway that'll kind of track along with their souls.
So how do we get to sit with your soul so we can get the work and get the help we need? You got a retreat coming up? You got any activations? I know you got the podcast. I know you're a facilitator for, Microdosing Healing Community, global community. Where else can we find you and how can we get into your essence to learn and get your medicine for healing and for the betterment of humanity?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, we have lots going on and lots of different access points to
Yeah.
the people where they're at. So our global community is open to people in 30 different countries. So it's
Wow.
international in flavor. It's a great way if you're curious, this is the place to be. So if you're new, if you're curious and you want to get solid information instead of searching the interwebs
Yeah.
for all the misinformation out there, it's a great opportunity. It's really accessible. It's just a month-to-month membership where you can come in and meet. There's always myself and lots of other microdosing guides there to get coaching, ask questions. You can just listen to other people. There's people in there that have been microdosing for 4 or 5 years now to learn from. We also have a professional guide group and training program. So if you want to bring this work forth to the world and your community, coach and guide other people, we train other guides to do what we do now
Yeah.
in our professional program. And then our podcast is exactly that. It's just an opportunity. I interview a lot of guides with unique expertise in different medicines. So we can kind of shine a light and let the medicines star, and also a lot of underground guides who
Yeah.
have a lot of deep, rich hands-on experience. So if you're curious and learn about what it's really like to work with the medicine, you're welcome to tune into the pod too.
Yeah. And what's the podcast name for those?
Microdosing for healing.
There you go. And last but not least, last question. When you hear the word spiritual fitness, what comes up for you?
I immediately think of soul strength. I think the more we focus our healing on our soul takes care of all the rest. One of the things we've been so conditioned out of is our understanding that our everything we need to heal is always within us. And once we kind of tap into our soul and our soul helps us tap into our alignment, everything just falls into place and our innate healing can kind of take root and blossom. So I always encourage people to start with the soul first. It's the fastest way to get to where you want to go.
Wow. Soul work is usually slow work, but once you work the soul, you grow. Easy. Thank you. Thank you for your time, your wisdom, your essence, your medicine, and sharing, your community with us today. People follow her, get the podcast, join her global community, become a facilitator, and microdose for healing because we all need it. But this has been another incredible episode. Thank you again. People, subscribe to the podcast, Spiritual Fitness. Like, share, subscribe. Go to YouTube. And we're out. Thank you, Kayse. Peace.